Hi and welcome back. So in the last video we had done our beat analysis and we had kind of learned a new concept. We had gone over this concept of an upbeat, which I drew as this big green up arrow right here. And that's where we're completely evenly dividing beats 1 and 2. So we had gone through all of that and done this beat analysis. And I told you at the end of the last video that I wanted you to at least attempt to translate this example in 2/2 time. I at least wanted you to try to translate it or to rewrite it, these first two measures, into 4/4 time. And so hopefully you've at least got a try at that, and maybe you tried out to do these last two measures as well. But hopefully, I at least hope you tried to do this on your own before starting this video, because now I'm going to give you the answer. So keep in mind, we've got a 2 up here. So we've got 2 beats per measure. And down here, we've got a 4. So we've got 4 beats per measure. So that means that when we have, instead of numbering just 1 and 2, we're going to have to number 1, 2, 3, 4 down when we're in 4/4 time, right? So it's going to look something like, 1, 2, then this 1 and 2 will be 3 and 4. And then here we start over again. We'll have a bar line there. And then we'll have 1 and 2. And then this 1 and 2 will be 3 and 4, right? So that's what we're going to be doing when we're translating this down, because this had 2 beats in a measure and this one has 4 beats in a measure. And this is kind of in reverse what we did back when we had an example where we took something that was in, we had something that was in 4/4 time and we put it into 2/4 time. And in that example, we had to change all these 3 and 4s into 1 and 2s, right? So now we're just going the opposite way. We're taking the 1s and the 2s and we're changing them into 3s and 4s where appropriate. Okay? So that's, I guess, the first thing. The first thing that we need to realize that we're doing. So for starting out, we've got a beat up here in 2/2 that takes up all of beat 1 and nothing else. It just takes up all of beat 1. So what would that look like down here in 4/4 time? Well, that's just a quarter note, isn't it? Because a quarter note gets the beat in 4/4 time, right? And a half note gets the beat in 2/2 time, okay? So the translation or the rewrite of that is just going to be this quarter note, right? So then on beat 2, it's the same thing because we just have another half note, okay? So then right here, this is going to just be another quarter note. So that is our first measure at 2/2 and the first 2 beats of this measure 4/4. And now we're going to write this out for the whole note. So a whole note, how many beats does a whole note get in 2/2 time? Well, it gets 2 beats, doesn't it? Because a half note plus a half note is equal to the same amount of rhythmic value as a whole note, right? So down here in 4/4 time, what gets 2 beats in 4/4 time? A half note, right? So that's our first measure. So that is what our first measure is going to look like. And let's just put in our beat analysis real quick. Right here we've got beats 1 and 2, and this is beat 3, and beat 4 goes out in our no man's land. And now let's write in our green arrow analysis. And remember, when we translate these, the green arrow analysis stays the same. That's the point of when we rewrite something in another time signature. The green arrows are all going to stay the same. So let's see if that happens. And if they do stay the same for this, then we did it right. So we have a downbeat on beat 1. We have a downbeat on beat 2. Then on beat 3, we have another downbeat. And we hold through beat 4. And that's it, isn't it? This is the same green arrow analysis, right? Okay, so let's move on. And now this is where I want to show you a brand new note, a note that we have not yet learned, and that is the eighth note. And the eighth note, you might be wondering why it's called the eighth note. But if you think about it, I guess I'll show you that in a previous video. I'm pretty sure I'll definitely go into more depth. But if you think about it, our eighth note, if this whole thing, let me do this in yellow. Say this whole thing down here is what is going to translate into one measure of 4/4. And up here we've got quarter notes. But let me ask you, we're going to translate these down here. And how many quarter notes total could we fit up here? So if we were to turn this half note into a quarter note, or into two quarter notes, well, we could fit 8 of them, right? So that means down here in 4/4 time, we're going to be able to fit 8 eighth notes. So that's where an eighth note gets its name, okay? And an eighth note is going to look like this. Note head, stem, sorry, let me do that a bit cleaner. Note head, stem, and a flag on the stem, okay? And that's what an eighth note is going to look like. And there are kind of other ways you can write these, and like all notes, this it could also go down, and then the stem would come up like that, or the stem would go down, and then the flag would come up, and then that's how it would look if it was if the note stem was going the other way. And there are other also I guess practices for writing eighth notes, but for right now, that is what an eighth note looks like. It looks like a note head, a stem going either up or down, and then a flag. Okay, and there are a couple of different. I'll go into more depth in another playlist about what we do with these flags, and kind of the system of putting flags on note stems and what that means. But for right now, this is an eighth note: note head, stem, flag. Okay, and how many of them do we have? Well, we've got 2 of them, don't we? Because we can just bring this other one down. So we've got 1 eighth note, 2 eighth notes, okay? Then on beat 2, we've got a half note up here, which, just like over here, half note takes up 1 beat in beat 2, so what takes up 1 beat in 4/4? Quarter note. A quarter note is what takes up 1 beat in 4/4. And now we finish this out with 4 quarter notes in 2/2, which, as we learned over here, that is going to translate into 4 eighth notes in 4/4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now let's do our beat analysis real quick. So we're just going to pretty much bring down these numbers that we wrote in up here. So beat 1 happens on this eighth note. Then we have our upbeat here, which we'll do in green in a sec. Then beat 2 is a quarter note. Beat 3 is this eighth note. Beat 3, upbeat here. And then beat 4 happens right there. And now for the important part, or I shouldn't say the important part, but the part that is going to stay completely the same as up here is the arrow analysis, and that's how we know that we did the job right. We did the rewrite correctly. So we have downbeat on 1, then we have an upbeat right after it, and that's same as up here. Then on 2 we have our downbeat. Then on 3, again, we have our downbeat. Upbeat on 3, downbeat on 4, upbeat on 4. And that is the same as the arrows we had up here, so we know we did it right. I'm out of time in this video, but in the next video, we'll just sing through both of these so that we can show that we did the translation right, and these will sound the same. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.